All right, this is very exciting because not only do we have the return of Alyssa Farah-Griffin from a bad stomach bug, we are joined by the godfather of podcasting, the man, Stephen A. Smith is here. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Crowd goes wild.
Crowd goes wild. We just had a great show. Thank you for being here for us.
Pleasure.
You know, we work on a show that dips into politics a lot, as you know. And we often have guests that come on. We kind of switch. We'll do a political segment, then we'll have a celebrity on. Mm-hmm. And so many of them want to talk about politics, and so many of them will do anything possible to avoid talking about it. You have made a decision to dive into this in a way that you didn't have to do. I mean, if you just stayed to sports, you were doing quite well. Mm-hmm. What made you decide this is something I need to talk about?
I'm a voter. I'm an American citizen. I'm a conscientious observer, and I don't like a lot of the things that I was seeing. But more importantly than anything else, you see so much fervor, so much passion when it comes to the world of sports. Well, just imagine how that's going to be when it comes to people's livelihoods, the economy, immigration, the borders, obviously, safety in the streets, education, etc. And so when you look at it from that standpoint and you see the kind of pertinent issues that are going on that affect the lives of the average everyday American citizen, I was just one of those people that deduced a long time ago, what justification could I have for just doing sports and caring about it when I thought there was so much more that I could bring to the table? And if touching on these issues in a way that I know that I would is something that would draw even more people to the subject at hand so we can discuss it, debate it, and really, really provoke change for the better in this country, why not do that?
When you get angry feedback from people, is it more the sports or is it more the politics? Because Whoopi always says as soon as you open your mouth, half the country hates you. Have you found that? Or?
No question. There's no doubt about it. I don't care. I'm built,
Either does she.
I'm built for that because, you know, a lot of times when people see you or they see me on television on ESPN, they see me as a pundit and a commentator, they forget that I was a journalist for 30 years.
That's right.
And that you're trained as a journalist to not care about those things. You need to be in tireless pursuit of the truth, inching closer and closer to it every single day. And as long as you're doing that and you're conducting yourself with honor and integrity and you care about telling the truth or getting as close to it as you can as opposed to being agenda-driven, then you know something? There's a lot of hate that comes with that because a lot of people want you to parrot their speech and say what they want you to say and think the way they want you to think. I'm not that kind of guy. I think for me. I speak for me. And that's the way I've always been, and that's the way I'm going to always be.
Well, I'm a big fan of yours, and one of the reasons is you're a self-described Democrat, but I find you often hard to pin down on issues. I think you're a free thinker. You think outside the box, and you've become a destination for politicians right, left, and center. You've had Republicans on. You've had Democrats on. Are there any conversations you've had that have surprised you? And follow up to that, have you found that more Republicans are itching to talk to you or more Democrats?
Well, to answer the last question first, more Republicans are interested in talking than Democrats.
That's so interesting.
I find Democrats too willing to run, to be quite honest with you, because I think that, you know, on too many occasions you have a lot of Democrats that they want to get a bit moralistic and they want to stand on a high ground and so guilt you into vibing with them and seeing their way. And I'm like, no, be objective and neutral and just state the facts and then let me judge for myself. I understand you can't do that if you're on one side of the aisle or the other, but as the person receiving that feedback, that information, etc., you shouldn't be that way. And even though I talk about being a Democrat, I'm talking about what I would run as if I was running for office. I consider myself an independent. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a centrist. And to me, I can lean right or left from the center and be very, very comfortable. There are some things that I'm conservative about when it comes to taxes because I do not like taxes in New York, California, and New Jersey. I cannot stand them. But there are things that I'm obviously liberal about in terms of prioritizing the desolate and the disenfranchised and operating from the ground up in terms of trying to uplift folks and what have you instead of from the top down. And I think that that's where, you know, it comes into play. And then when you think about the Republicans, I'm not going to be hardcore the way Trump has elected to be. Even though I'm not for abortion, I'm pro-choice because I don't believe as a man I have a right to tell a woman what to do with their body. Even though I'm incredibly supportive of the LGBTQ plus community, I'm not supportive of transgender individuals competing. You're a man and you're transitioning into being a woman and you're competing against women in sports and stuff like that. I'm not supportive of that, nor am I supportive when it comes to changing your sex or whatever without parental consent. I don't vibe with that at all. You can't, if you're a child, you have no business being in a position to make those kind of decisions. So see, I'm not far left like that either. I'm not a far leftist when it comes to Mamdani, who's a socialist. I like him. I'm fond of him as a person. I think he's a skilled politician. I think he did a tremendous job campaigning against Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Lewa. All the credit in the world to him. But in the end, when you're talking about free buses and free child care and free grocery stores and stuff like that, I come from a place where I've learned a long time ago, nothing's free. Everything's costing. Somebody's going to pay for it. And so when you tell me that, I don't believe you. And I don't believe that's sustainable. And so when I look at our government and from a global perspective in terms of what's transpiring with Venezuela and other places, socialism is proved to not work. I don't believe it'll work in a capitalistic society. So again, that's a conservative form of thinking. Liberals may think otherwise. That's why I don't consider myself a liberal in that respect. There are some things I'm liberal about, and there are some things I'm conservative about.
Are there people you won't sit down with because you've done have cast a wide net, and you've sat with people? The conversation about platforming becomes something we deal with sometimes.
People have to grow up with that. First of all, that's the most ridiculous. I can't stand that word platforming because if somebody is making news and they're saying things that's relevant and pertinent to the audience, then if you have a platform in which they can be heard and your audience can hear from them and they're relevant and pertinent, then they should be heard from. Where my patience runs thin and I won't talk to people. I'm not talking to anybody that's disrespectful. I'm not talking to anybody that doesn't know how to act like an adult. Yeah. You can feel whatever way you want to, but you can articulate yourself in an upstanding and professional fashion. Marjorie Taylor Greene would be the perfect example. How she spoke when she came on The View, how she spoke when she was on CNN and other places is far different than the way you saw her behaving in the previous years when she was a congresswoman she still is, but when she was a congresswoman out of Georgia. Just some of the theatrics and just the juvenile tendencies that she displayed. I never would talk to somebody like that. I got no patience for that. But as long as you have a message to articulate and you're doing so in an intelligent and respectful fashion, then I'm open to talking to you no matter what side you come from.
That's great. So something that was a hot topic we did here on the show and made some headlines was Michelle Obama, former First Lady, came out and basically said she didn't think the country was ready for a female president, particularly men. There was kind of a disagreement among folks in how they received that. Do you agree that the U.S. isn't ready for a female
No, I
president?
don't agree with her at all. And I said that. And it really raked my nerves that she said that. And I listen, she didn't specify ethnicity when she said that. She just generalized about our gender. And I disagreed with it wholeheartedly. And and for me personally, I'm calling on men everywhere. How much more are we going to take when it comes to some of these assertions and these accusations that I believe are completely unfounded? Hillary Rodham Clinton won the popular vote by 2.9 million in 2016. Kamala Harris was the Democratic nominee for the presidency of the United States of America. Nancy Pelosi was the Speaker of the House for years. Two women just won gubernatorial seats in New Jersey and Virginia. We have a woman that's a governor in New York, okay? And Michelle Obama herself, I'd vote for her. Right. I imagine millions would vote for her. A matter of fact, I'm on the record stating that if she ran for president, I thought she'd win. What are you talking about? See, it's like it's this thing to lean on to say, men, there's a problem. And listen, ladies, look at what we have to go through. There is no question that women have been treated unfairly throughout history in our society. And we wouldn't be what we are if it were not for the wonderful women across ethnic lines who have done wonders for our nation. But do you not look at men revering their moms, their grandmoms, their sisters, their daughters, etc.? Men everywhere are loving women. And I'm looking at her, who has a man that's the former president of the United States, a two-term president, who reveres her. I'm looking at tens of millions of people who love and revere her. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It makes me look at her and ask myself, where are you these days? Where are you living at? Are you getting out enough? Are you talking to people? Because she is not just loved and respected, but revered. And I just don't think her assertions come from a credible place.
That's what I thought was remarkable, because I completely agree with you. I happen to think the woman who would be most likely to win as a Democratic nominee is Michelle Obama, one of the most beloved individuals in the country. So couldn't have said it better myself.
And I think she's just using it as an excuse because she doesn't want to run. Because I think she knows that she'd have a damn good chance of winning the presidency if she ran. But you don't want to do it. Well, if you don't want to do it, just say you don't want to do it. Don't blame men, especially tens of millions of men who would come out and vote for you. Because I'm one of them. Yeah. I would vote for her.
Now, by contrast, you do say that you believe Vice President Kamala Harris's political career is over.
Yes, I do.
She was on our show recently for her book, and I mean, we were discussing that, and of course, she's not saying anything really.
That's why it's over. Because on too many occasions, she has nothing to say. She's talking, but she's not saying anything. And here's the problem. Unlike Trump, who would question her and Jasmine Crockett's IQ and all of this other stuff, Kamala Harris doesn't deserve that. She is a former attorney general, former prosecutor, former senator, former vice president, and former Democratic nominee for the presidency of the United States of America. Don't come to me about her intelligence. You can miss me with that. I don't want to hear that from Trump or anybody else. It's not her intelligence that's lacking. It's her unwillingness to showcase it because she's too interested in being too careful. And because you were too careful, you went up against some guy that used it with mastery. You understand? Trump, literally being who he is, also took time to say, I'm here. I'm showing up for these interviews. Where's she at? You know, he did that at the National Association for Black Journalists Conference. Now, I understand there were things going on, and I think she had to go attend a funeral, if I remember correctly, at that particular moment in time. But you know what? You find a way to get there because you know he's going to be there. You can't have that man showing up in front of an audience of black journalists and you don't show and you're running for the presidency of the United States of America. That's what she did. And so for me, she comes on The View and Sonny asks her, you know, is there anything that she could have done? I don't think so. What? Yeah. With 12 to 15 million people crossing the border illegally, you know, it's bad enough y'all denied that there was a migrant crisis taking place within the United States of America. But then to sit there and to feign ignorance when we know you know better. Yeah. We know you know better. And so the fact that you would do that, now your authenticity was questioned. So it was bad enough that you didn't make it to Iowa in 2020. Yeah. It was bad enough that you bypassed the primary in 2024. But then to turn around and add credence and credibility to those arguments against you with people using your own verbiage or lack thereof against you is why I say her career is over, because you're not going to run for the governor of California, which is your home state, and you're certainly not going to run again for the presidency because the Democratic Party is not going to allow you to be the candidate in 2028. It's over.
How much damage do you think Sonny's question did to her campaign? We struggle with that from time to time.
I don't think Sonny's question did any damage.
Good.
I think her answer did
Fair.
damage.
Yeah.
It was her answer. Sonny's not responsible. Kamala Harris is a grown woman and a seasoned politician who's very accomplished and deserves our respect. She forgot that when she rolled up on The View, and instead of leaning on her credibility and her credentials, she decided to be evasive at the worst possible time to do that. She blew the election. It wasn't just her. It was a lot of the Democrats with what they had you focused on. But her appearance on The View was one of the most egregious performances you will have seen by a politician running for the presidency. She dropped the ball in a major way, and for that, she has no one to blame but herself.
Well, and a lot of folks are like, we appreciated her loyalty to Biden. Loyalty is admirable, but to the point you made when we closed the show, winning is everything in politics and in sports. And if you can't get across the finish line by creating that necessary distance and by breaking with him and showing that you recognize what the American people care about, you don't deserve to win.
I think she's using the word loyalty. I think she's hiding behind it. Because here's how you could have been loyal to Joe Biden. Okay, I'm the Democratic nominee. Yeah. Let me talk to you for a second. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm thankful that you picked me as your VP candidate. We've done some great things together. I'm trying to win this thing. And in order to win this thing, I might have to veer away from some of the positions that you took in order for me to do what I need to do. I need you to understand it. It's not personal. I'm trying to win an election. If anybody knows that, you should. You were a senator for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
You're a vice president for 8. And now you're the president of the United States of America. You know what it takes to win.
Yeah.
This is what I need to do.
Yeah.
That's how you express your loyalty, not by going on national television and looking the American people in the face and you know what, and you talking about spit when they know it's raining.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
100%.
Well, now to your point, Democrats are employing all sorts of different tactics right now.
Sure.
You brought up Mamdani, and he had a very warm meeting with Donald Trump.
Yep.
On the other end, you got Gavin Newsom, who's actively trolling Donald Trump. Which of these do you think is the right way to go? What do you think?
I think Mamdani definitely is the right way to go from the standpoint that even though he's a socialist, and I'm no supporter of that, I do think it's important. It was important that he went to the White House after his rhetoric during the campaign to show that the campaign is over. Now it's time to prepare for governing. I'm going to need federal assistance with some of the agendas that I have. And obviously, this is the man in office. So at some point in time, I'm going to have to deal with him. So to be able to go to the White House, to shake his hand, to have a conversation with him, to show him that I'm willing to be an adult in the room goes a long way. Gavin Newsom, I don't blame him per se for trolling Trump. I mean, when the president of the United States calls you new scum, when he berates you at every turn, when he insults you at every turn, at some point in time, you do have to step up and fight on your own behalf. I just know that Gavin Newsom needs to know that strategy over the long haul is not going to work. It's working now. It's giving you traction and elevating you within the mind's eye of Democrats everywhere. But at some point in time, you're going to have to defend your record. And I think about what a hard time he had doing it against Ron DeSantis when they debated on Hannity's show.
Yep.
Well, what you going to do if it's J.D. Vance, but especially if it's Marco Rubio?
Yeah.
We have to understand something about Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is a highly respected individual. You can see people insulting him and going at him and challenging some of the positions that he took. But I will remind you that he was a senator for years. He was incredibly knowledgeable. And now he's the Secretary of State. And you see some of the things that have been transpiring globally. He's got his fingerprints all over that. Yeah. So he's cultivated relationships along the way. And he's considered to be the adult in the room. Look at how everybody else has acted. Even J.D. Vance from time to time. And then look at Marco Rubio. He is clearly there because he has to be when he's in that room with them. But he is not of their ilk. This man is a serious, serious player. And he is the Secretary of State who also got the National Security Advisor's role added to him. You can make a legitimate argument that he's the second most powerful person in the country. Yeah. And he's incredibly connected because of his years in the Senate, not to mention what he's doing now as Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. He knows where all the bodies lie. Yeah. He knows all the information. He knows all the tactics. This is a serious, serious contender. And if you're going to go up against him, you cannot have the streets of California looking the way that they've looked at times. You cannot have the crime being talked about in your state the way it's been talked about in California. You cannot have affordability issues being raked through the coals because it's the highest in our republic. You cannot have a situation where the economy and all of this other stuff, people are looking at the state of California and it's not affordable. Yeah. Gavin Newsom's going to have to answer for those things, not to mention how he's been a prisoner to the environmentalists out there and how that's impeded his ability to get his agenda done to his liking. All those things are things he's going to have to answer for in order to be the Democratic nominee. And I'm not sure he can pull it off.
I love it when sports and politics combine, and this happened recently. You warned that Trump is coming for the NFL and the NBA, pointing to the timing of the NBA figures arrested for the illegal betting scheme. Kash Patel came out and said, that's the single dumbest thing I've ever heard out of anyone in modern history. Right. I'm sure you disagree with that. Why do you think Trump is coming for these sports?
Well, first of all, let me address the FBI Director Kash Patel.
Please.
Nobody's scared of him. I would be if I wasn't a law-abiding citizen, but I don't break laws. So I have no reason to fear him. I do respect him. I do respect the job that he's doing for the most part. I think he misconstrued what I was saying. And I think people misconstrued why he was responding to Laura Ingraham the way that he did. They were acting like this is a witch hunt from Trump, and that's why this investigation took place. That is not what I said. The investigation was going on before Trump got back to office. I was fully aware of that. Okay, what I was saying was two things can be true. This investigation into gambling on the part of sports figures can be every bit as legitimate as Kash Patel swears it is, calling it the NBA's version of insider trading. He's not lying if indeed these allegations are true. But that can be true, and it can also be true what I said, which it is. Trump is coming for them. Once again, for the 1,000th time, I have to remind everybody, Donald Trump wants to be an owner in the National Football League.
That's right.
In 2014, he calls me, and he's talking to me about it. And he says the asking price for Buffalo is $1.4 billion, the Buffalo Bills. My sources tell me he only had 1.1. And Donald Trump said, quote, if them get in my way, I'm going to get them all back. I'm going to run for president. That's exactly what he said.
Oh, Lord.
And everybody looked at me and said, so it's our fault with the NFL that he ran. And I said, yeah, it is, because had he been an owner for the Buffalo Bills, he would not have run for president. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. What I'm saying is the man remembered that. Rewind the clock to Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is taking a knee, okay? The NFL is in flux. Trump politicizes it, hijacks the narrative, turns it into an issue of patriotism. This man, Donald Trump, had the nerve to sit up there, not only talk to us about the national anthem, how you're supposed to stand hand over heart. You can stand, you can bow your head, you can stand respectfully, you can be quiet while the national anthem. Who told you have to have your hand over your heart? He tries to bring that up like he's supposed to, he's supposed to be the one deciphering or determining what you do. He did that because he knew it was going to ingratiate him with his base, okay? And obviously it turned into something that the NFL didn't want it to turn into, and it was a real problem for them. Okay, the NBA, LeBron James called him a bum. Numerous people didn't show up to the White House when invited because of it. What I was saying was the people that come to him asking for pardons, looking for a reprieve, looking for, to escape some of the travails they may be experiencing, don't think about it. Not when it comes to these sports figures, because if it inconveniences the league in any way, he's not going to have a problem with it. That's what I was saying. Kash Patel didn't understand that. Maybe it's because he's not knowledgeable about sports, all right, and Trump's, connections in the world of sports. His lane is being the director of the FBI and law enforcement. My lane, sports. And I'm telling you, Trump's relationship with members, he's got friends now in the NBA and in the NFL. But the league as a whole, he had issues with both. And the opportunity to inconvenience them is not something that he minds. That's what I was saying. I said it then. I say it now. I'm not backing up, regardless of what Kash Patel says.
I'm sure we're going to hear plenty after the Super Bowl. He's going to have plenty of thoughts.
Well, look at what he's doing with the Super Bowl. He talked about, they announced that Bad Bunny is performing. First words out of his mouth is that ICE would be there.
Right.
So now you got people, he's basically saying, listen, the Hispanic population, anybody that's here illegally, don't think about coming to Santa Clara, because guess what? We'll be waiting for you. So imagine if you saw ICE agents outside the Super Bowl. Think about that. On Super Bowl Sunday. Think about what kind of effect that would have.
Yeah, terrifying.
Yeah.
I know you have to go. Do we have time for one more question?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Real quick, if you had to rank a high point of the first year of Trump back in office and low point, what would you say?
I would say the high point is the Border Patrol. There's no doubt that he's been effective with the border. And it's primarily because what Biden did was so egregious, it's hard to put into words. You don't have open borders. He could have easily did what Obama did. You were the vice president under Obama. Obama had deported more people in his first term than Trump did. Okay? And you could have made sure to address things and handle the border issue far more adroitly than Biden did. He did not do that. That was problematic. So Trump comes up in there and Trump shuts down the border.
Yeah.
And you know what? We can sit up there and say what we want to, but it needed to be done. I hate seeing ICE in the streets going after people the way that they are. Don't tell me that everybody's a criminal. There's a lot of law-abiding citizens that they're messing with. There's no doubt about it. I hate it. I hated seeing in Minnesota yesterday, I'm a black man, to see Somalians, grabbed and handcuffed and dragged away. It breaks
Called
my
garbage.
heart. I mean, and to be called garbage, I'm disgusted by that. There's no place for that. This is the problem with our president. You know what I'm saying? Class, no decorum.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just juvenile. It really ticks me off. But Biden played a vital role in creating that climate because of how he elected to do things, which was just negligent of duty. Okay, so I would say that that's a high point for Trump. I think the low point, honestly speaking, remains to be seen. We don't know how these tariffs are going to pan out. I can't imagine that they're going to be nearly as good as he says. So we shall see. Crime in the streets of America, even though it still exists, you can't say it's worse now than it was. So I'm not going to give him that. Foreign affairs is a different matter. I thought you were going to resolve the Ukraine-Russia conflict the first day in office.
Yeah.
Well, damn it, it's almost been a year. You still can't get closure on that. And I think that that's important because that's a big deal. Obama tried to deny that it was a big deal when Mitt Romney brought up Russia, when he was debating against him in 2012. Well, we now find out that was a very, very big issue, and Russia was a very, very big player. Things haven't been resolved tariff-wise with China moving forward as well. So it's a lot that remains to be seen. But, ultimately, I'd say the downside is more so about ICE than anything else, believe it or not. Because even though on one hand the border issue is a positive, it's also a profound negative because of how it's been handled. I've interviewed Tom Homan twice, the border czar. The man is serious. He's not playing games. But there's a human element that has to come to play. When you sit up there and they say, you said you were going to target criminals. And then he says, yes, we are targeting criminals. People who cross the border illegally are committing a crime. Come on, man. Yeah. It's like technically he's right, but that's not what you said.
That wasn't the
That's
promise.
not
what
the
you said,
impression you gave us.
Yeah.
That's a bit disingenuous, and I actually I enjoy talking to him, so I'm a mind my manners. But that's disingenuous. That's not what we're talking about here. You're going after folks, and you're basically saying anybody who's here illegally is a criminal, and we're justified in doing what we're doing. Well, doing what you're doing would be simply deporting somebody. When you're snatching them out of cars, when you're throwing them to the ground in the streets, when you're roughing them up, when you're going to their place of business, when you're going to Home Depots and other places, when you're letting it be known that you have the license to go into churches and stuff like that. Now that's crossing a different line. And I think that that's not the interpretation that you provided when Trump was campaigning. And that's why it's problematic. So I'd say the border issue actually is the best and worst of the Trump administration right now.
All right. Well, I promise to get you out of here. You have several places to be. But thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I've bet on the Cowboys tonight. Was that a mistake?
No.
Okay,
I think
good.
they'll beat Detroit.
Great. You can listen to Straight Shooter with Stephen A. on Sirius XM every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. And you can catch him every morning on ESPN's First Take, unless he's on The View. We'll see you on Behind the Table next week.
Behind the Table is executive produced by Brian Tetta. Supervising producers are Nathan Getty and Summer Shade. Associate producers are Emily Darcy and Katerina Alexopoulos. And our editor is Brian Davis. Our digital coordinator is Molly Kaiser. And director of publicity is Laurie Hogan. From ABC Audio, Trevor Hastings serves as senior producer, with director of podcast programming Josh Cohen.